And please be mindful of the comments that you put in the chat, because when I open up the comment, it shows on the video, okay? All right, so here is the first video that I would like to show you.
This is my first rodent.
What does it taste like to you?
It's the chicken. Everything that the American cuisine is today is because all these different people and different cultures contributed to it. Oh my God. It's such a flavor explosion.
Everybody knows Thai food. Nobody knows about Thai people. There's the dish and then there's the hands that prepare and serve the dish.
Wow, cook good, baby.
This alone is reason to come to El Paso.
Yeah, it's good, huh?
Burp a little. The Thai 2.0, dude.
How's my Thai?
Watch your back.
God damn it.
Food is medicine. We've all heard that before.
It's much deeper than just what feeds you.
It's like a spiritual connection.
The gateway to another culture often happens first through food. Okay, inshallah.
If you sit at my table and eat with me, you'll know who I am.
This is what American food looks like. This is the original. This is real America. I'm really sorry you can't eat this. I always do that.
So that's the first one, and here's the second one about the question that I asked you.
Community seems to be our food waste.
Listen, y'all, boy. Down here?
A large part of what identifies the Gullah Geechee community seems to be our food waste.
Listen, y'all, boy. Down here? Food is important to us in Chucktown. Geecheeana red rice on the plate. You ain't getting mac and cheese, boy, you gotta wait. They got greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes. You can hold a banana pudding, I get them later. Seafood, rice, got crab all in it. If you hold us some shrimp too, boy, you know that you're winning.
Hey, now we embracing that geech.
Embrace.
The Gullah Geechee community is one of the most beautiful cultures you may never have heard of. They descend from West Africans who were brought here against their will and enslaved on southern plantations. Today, almost 200,000 still live along the coast from northern Florida up to North Carolina. Many are here in the Charleston area, the unofficial capital of the Gullah Nation.
So I'm sorry that I'm talking about food again. I just wanted to make a point. Let me put my head. Okay. So I just wanted to make a point about basically what we were talking about last class, right? I wanted to make a point regarding how we connect. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start opening up what we need to be opening up for today, which is the notes, the Google Doc, okay. Remember that if you have a hard time seeing your notes from last time, you want to make sure that it is not in viewing mode, because your comments disappear, but in editing mode. Okay, thank you, Lucas. Okay. Alright, awesome. I hope that the recording is still okay even with my mic on. I don't think that they can hear you, but I think that they're going to be able to hear me. So, I just wanted, one of the things that they said in the promo, in the trailer of A Taste of a Nation was, there's the dish, and then there's the hand cooked the dish, that prepared the dish. And I thought about that, and it reminded me of an episode 1 of that show, when Padma Lakshmi, she works in the food world. She's part of like Top Chef. She's written cookbooks and all this stuff. And she's just like very cultural. She knows like 4 different languages. She came to this country from southern India when she was about 4 years old. All this stuff. And you know, she traveled to El Paso. She traveled to the border where El Paso used to be, okay, El Paso used to be twin cities. Like it used to be 2 cities in one. And then when the border was created, it had split into 2 different cities. And that's why it's called El Paso, the way, the path. That's what it means in Spanish. And she went down there and she was talking to people, and she was talking to people who cross back and forth between the border every day for work, children that cross over from the border to go to school, and then they cross back across the border to go home. All this stuff with paramilitary presence and all that. And I will never forget that one man said, he said, the people here love my food. Talking about El Paso. He's like, the people here love my food. They love Mexican cuisine. But I wish that they loved my cousins as much as they love my food. And that hit. Like that landed. As someone who has cousins that for a long time were undocumented, even though they only came here when they were 1 year old, and they were still considered undocumented, them driving to go to work was a danger every day. Their parents working jobs that paid them really low wages was terrible for their family. Having their wages stolen from them because an employer refused to pay them after their labor. And then what are you going to do? You're going to call the police? You can't. When they would get sick, what a struggle it was for them to get medical attention. When they would drive to their job, and the kinds of jobs that they had, like a lot of them worked at the fair, or at Santa's Enchanted Forest while they were in high school because they needed to help out their parents. But everywhere that you go to apply for a job, they want your social security number. People that were, and this is before the Dream Act, and this is before scholarships from Miami-Dade College that allowed undocumented students to enroll and not pay 3 times the tuition of what it costs. That was before then, but back then they couldn't take the ACT, they couldn't take the SAT without having your social security number. Back then, you can do that now, but back then they couldn't, and so it was really hard for them to get into college and stuff like that. And that phrase just it stayed with me when that man was making his Mexican cuisine, and how many people come and how many people love the food, and he's like I wish hold on one second, and he's like, I wish that as many people loved my, hold on, remove, he's like, I wish that people loved my cousins as much as they loved my cuisine, as much as they loved my food. And so I want us to think about culture. I want us to continue thinking about all the different people that make up America and that make up the United States, and all the different cultures that are here in the country, because this is what a quilt of a country is talking about. Okay, so let me just go ahead and let me just check my grade book real quick. No, forget my grade book. Let me check the mind. Because I have individual. Nope. All right. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Let me check the chat. Okay. I'm gonna try to speak up, Tatiana. Let me see if I can fix it, sweetie. Ariana, does that help? Like, did the little change that I made in the audio, did it help? Okay, let me try one more. Okay, sweetie, did that help? When I made that change? Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, when I put in my headphones, I don't know what the computer automatically connects to. Okay, I'm not sure. But ultimately what I was saying was that, you know, that man's phrase, what he said in episode 1 that you all didn't see, that I wish that people love my cousins as much as they love my cuisine, when he was talking about Mexican cuisines and his family. That's something that I want us to think about as we are thinking about all the different kinds of people that make up the U.S. and all the cultures that make up the U.S. You know, we love the food. Do we love the people? We love the labor, and the labor, like what produces, what produce and what products come from that labor. But do we love the laborers themselves? You know, we love saying that we are a melting pot, that we are a quilt of a country. But do we love the individual cultures and the individual people that make up that quilt? Okay, so I want us to think about culture as we're doing this. All right, so we left off here with a vertical hierarchy. Exactly, that we're so diverse and we're so accepting, but of which cultures? Like, which cultures are more acceptable than others? Which religions are more acceptable than others? I will never forget that phrase. I wish that they loved my cousins as much as they loved my cuisine. And it's the same thing. So that really resonated with me and my family. And I hope that, like, it helps to put you in the framework of what we're reading about today. We love other cultures' music. We love hip hop. We love bachata. We love merengue. We love Mexican cuisine. We love, Thai food. Do we love the people that make up those cultures as much as we love what their cultures represent? Something to think about. So we left off. We were saying America is an improbable idea. And then what does America mean? The land of freedom, the land of opportunity, a new beginning. That it is a mongrel nation. That's a really negative connotation. That's a really negative connotation. The disparate parts, the separate parts. We are divided not by our culture, our race, our religion. It's not those differences that divide us. It's the judgments about those differences that do. That's very much like from willing to be disturbed. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add that in there. Okay, so everyone should also be added in there. It isn't the differences that divide us. It is our judgments and assumptions about our differences that do. And this is from Willing to Be Disturbed. This is like a throwback. Everything is out of alignment a little bit. Just keep pressing enter. It also makes another page for you. And so, when she said, we are held together by a notion, the notion that all men are created equal, that is a seminal document, a beautiful document. The Declaration of Independence is a work of art. If you ever get curious or get a chance to read the whole thing, the Declaration of Independence is a beautiful vocalization of how people deserve to be free. People deserve to be free from underneath a tyranny, from underneath the control of others, and that we should be able to have the fruits of our labor, and that's something that is beautiful. But we also acknowledge that it's ironic, because who they meant when they said all men are created equal were white straight, heterosexual, cisgendered, land-owning, wealthy, slave-owning, citizen, Christian males. And so how many, if you weren't that, if you weren't part of that, you were left out. So what do they really mean when they said all men are created equal? Men like us? Is that who they meant? And what if I'm poor? And what if I'm a person of color? And what if I don't own land? And what if I'm not Christian? What if I am not the gender or the sexuality or the race that is, appropriate to you, acceptable? Exactly. Exactly. You're not included. And so this is, I want to drive this point home. What America represents is beautiful. It is beautiful. I'm going to give a quote from James Baldwin. I don't think I have oh, here it is. This is James Baldwin. There's so many books that I have of him. He is a cornerstone of so many universities. And James Baldwin said something that I'll never forget. He said, I love America more than any other country in the world. And it is because of that I reserve the right to criticize her perpetually. Perpetually means, as much as I want, continually. I'm going to say the quote again. I love America more than any other country in the world. And because of that, I reserve the right to criticize her perpetually. Because, and then he says, and this is not part of the quote, but think about it. I know what America symbolizes. I know what America could be. I know what people dream of and think of in other countries when they want to travel here. That's who we are capable of being. That's who we are capable of becoming. And work for that. If you see that is not it, work for that. And so, it's not about, I don't believe in tearing down things that you're not willing to work for. And so people like myself and James Baldwin and Anna Quinlan in our text are saying to us that this is a beautiful nation with so many ideals. But let's also look at who it fails. So let's go. The reality is that there's a system of hierarchy, that there are people who believe that they are better than others and that they have somehow more rights than others. So let's go to number 6. Let's create on number 6. Very, very good, Gail. I'm sorry, no one can see her comment. Gail mentioned to me after class that the Nazis, their fixation on the pure bloodlines, when we get into our genocide and Holocaust unit around October, November, when we get into that unit, I'm going to show you documents that demonstrate, that prove that so much of the Aryan race ideology and the laws that were passed in Germany, that they were actually inspired by the Jim Crow laws of the U.S. And so it's like when we serve as an inspiration to other nations for how to divide and separate people, what are we doing wrong and how can we fix it? Okay? Thank you, Gail, for that. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add that to the pure bloodlines, not just the daughters of the Confederacy, Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany, and the Aryan race. Beautiful, Gail. Thank you so much. We also talked about Loving versus Virginia last time of 1967. So that's, really great contributions, everyone. Okay, so let's continue reading. Of all the nations in the world, the United States was built in nobody's image. The historian Daniel Borstein wrote. I would really like to take that quote. I only need a little part of it, a little chunk of it, and add a comment. What do you think that it means by nobody's image? Yeah, that's something that, like, Maria, that's something that people are trying to change. Like Yale University, for example, is renaming a lot of their buildings because of that, because they realize that like there are students who attend there that aren't comfortable. Yes, Dariana, there are students that attend there that aren't comfortable. And it's not just that, but it's like, if the way that you got your wealth, if the way that you got your power is based on the oppression and the exploitation of others, if that's the only way that you could have gotten power and that's how you got it, then should we really be uplifting you as a person who is worthy of admiration? And I don't, and you know, with Jefferson, the amount of like violation that he did, Sally Hayes and all of the children that she gave birth to as a product of rape. Like, this is the history. And so let's acknowledge the history. In Germany today, and again we'll get into that when we get to our genocide unit, but in Germany, in Rwanda, where genocides happened, they confront their history of oppression so that they can teach their children how this should never happen again. And so we too have to confront our history of oppression so that we can teach our children that this should never happen again. Of all the nations in the world, the United States was built in nobody's image. What do you think that means? That we were built in no one's image. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? That the U.S. was built in no one's image. Yeah, please talk. Yes. I don't think they can, so that I'm clear, my laptop is recording what it sees and what it hears. You're in my ear. Like, my laptop can't record that. My laptop is recording me talking, so they can't hear your comments, but I can, and I will repeat them. Okay, so thank you so much. Yes, please talk, participate. What do you think Daniel Borstein meant when he wrote, "The U.S. was built in nobody's image"? Even if you're not sure, let me know. Of all the nations in the world, the United States was built in nobody's image. What does that mean? Okay, that's fine. What do you think of when you think about what America is supposed to look like? What does it mean? Maybe it wasn't built like how... Okay, Haniela says, maybe it wasn't built like how they planned it to be. Oh, are people talking? And I'm just not sure. Hold on. Let me check my audio. Hey, I can hear you. Were people talking? Yes. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. No. I'm like, why are they so quiet today? Okay, sorry. Go again. Very good. Yes, thank you, Mariana. Yes, Mariana. Good. Good. I'm going to write that. Yeah, Martin, do you want to add to that? Okay, so what I wrote down was that America was trying to build something new, not based on one point of view and one type. That's an experiment, right? So let's go ahead, let's comment that. Let's take it to our Cornell notes, and and I'm going to write quote unquote nobody's image. Okay, good. Now, America, and I want to be clear, America was inspired. Thank you, everyone. America was inspired by the Roman Republic. You know, the fact that we have a Senate, the fact that we have an electorate, that is absolutely like part of the model. Let me see if I have it. Thomas Paine's Common Sense. Thomas Paine's Common Sense. The Rights of Man. Rousseau's The Social Contract. Like, all of these things helped to inspire what kind of government America should be. But it wasn't really based on like one particular government. It was a little bit of everything. It's really like a national experiment. And a lot of historians, a lot of scholars refer to the U.S. as a national experiment. Because of the checks and balances that it has in place, in order for not too much power to be given to one of the branches. The fact that it has 3 branches. We see other countries with that, but they only have like 2. They have a parliament and they have a monarchy, a parliamentary monarchy. So I mean, they took the best of everything to make a country. But my question to you is, what does it mean to look, quote unquote, American? What does that mean? Okay, keep going. Okay, good. What else? Yes. Very good. And a little bit of my question is like, what is it that, oh shoot, for the recording, someone said free, that it doesn't really look like, like just one person. To some people, what is the stereotype of what it means to look or to be American? What is the stereotype? Okay, fast food. Thomas, Maria went. Diana, keep going. I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm sorry. No! Maria, no. Maria, no. Maria, no. So, I'm sorry, Dariana. Oh my God, no spice. What's wrong with you people? Listen, I'm just trying to get to like the stereotype of white, blonde hair, blue eyes. That's literally all I was trying to do. That is all I was trying to do. Yeah. So all I was trying to do is be like white, blue eyes, blonde hair. That is all that I wanted to do. So, and we veered hard off track for a second. But I just, America doesn't look, because we're talking about an image. We're talking about an image, not a belief. We're talking about an image, not an ideology. So that's what I'm saying. What does it mean to look American? And the stereotype is like the white, blue eyes, blonde hair, all that. But we know that the reality is that, all the people that make up the U.S. look like so many different kinds of people. The reality is that there is no one way to look American. There's no way. There's no way to look American. Okay? Alright, so let's be respectful, everyone. Let's be respectful in the chat. I'm literally just trying to tell you to be white, that is white, blue eyes, blonde hair. That is it. That is it. And the reality is that there's no one way to look like the U.S. Okay? Like you are from here. Or exactly, or act. Yes. But I'm focusing on the word image. I'm focusing on the word image. because I want to take what the author said and I want to dissect it. Now, did she say it or who said it? Who said it? Very good, Daniel Borstein. Daniel Borstein. Okay, okay. So, we want to make sure that we are focusing on a historian. Okay? The historian is the one who's the expert here. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to highlight historian. I'm going to add a comment. And I'm going to be like that. A historian is an expert in the field of the past and connecting it to the present. Okay? I'm going to comment. I'm going to make sure that I put that in the comment. Okay, and I'm going to put nobody's image. It was quoted by a historian and a historian is an expert in the field. Notice where I'm putting it. I'm putting it on the left-hand side. I'm putting it on the left-hand side because I want to make sure that I quote not Anna Quindlen, but that I quote a historian. Okay? If you notice right here, it also has a quote, but it's her quote. Right here, I put a quote, but I want to make sure that I say who said the quote. A historian. Okay? If it was, and I'm not talking smack about anyone. If it was a chemist, if it was a medical doctor, if it was a butcher, if it was, it's not the same. The credibility is not the same. Because this is literally this man's job, to talk about history. Okay? Alright. That's because it was built of bits and pieces that seem discordant. Like the crazy, and for anyone who doesn't know what the word discordant means, let's go ahead and let's unpack it. What is the root word of discordant? Anyone know? Discord. Very good, Haley. I think it was Haley. Discord. Okay, so when there is discord between people, what do you think that means? Good. Tension. Messy. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it was Alex, Mariana, Haley, and someone else. So, and Martin. Yes. Very good. It is to argue. It means to argue. This is really good. So, we're going to go ahead, we're going to take that, and we're going to comment. Okay? We're going to write discordant. We're going to paste what discord means. It means unrest, tension, chaos, messy, to argue. Very good. Very, very good. That is it. That's all I want to write. Because everything, honestly, everything else that comes after this is what's more important. So, I'm good on the discordant thing. I don't got to keep unpacking everything. So, that's because it was built of bits and pieces that seem discordant, like the crazy quotes that have been one of its great folk art forms, velvet and calico, and checks and brocades. Okay, quilt. What is a quilt? I know that sounds such a stupid question, but what is a quilt? No, but you're thinking quill, Q-U-I-L-L. I'm asking, what is a quilt? Martin, you keep telling me something else, and the thing is that you're not wrong, but I'm saying quilt with a T, and Alexander hit the nail on the head. It is a blanket. Now tell me about this blanket. Yes, very good. It is different patches, different fabrics, colors, textures of fabric woven together. Okay. Now, when she's making a comparison here, what is that comparison called? When you're making a comparison between two things, there are like three different things that you can call that comparison. Okay, Alexander says simile, Martin says simile. What else? What else could it be? A metaphor. Very good, Alex. One more thing. Simile, metaphor. It can also be a what? Yeah. Keep going. Okay, I'm gonna give it analogy. No, not a synonym. A simile. So it could be an analogy, it could be a simile, it could be a metaphor, okay? And all those things are pretty similar to one another, but basically Anna Quinlan is using this idea, this picture of a quilt in order to compare it to what? She's not really talking about a quilt. What is she really talking about? America, very good. Yes, Denise, yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. And yes, Thomas, yes, Gail. It tells a story. It tells a story of America. It is a metaphor. This is a metaphor or an analogy. Okay? I'm going to copy all that. I'm going to comment. And I'm going to bring it with me to my Cornell note of a quilt. Quilt as a metaphor for America. A quilt is different fabrics, different colors, different textures, all that. Okay. Now, she's really using quilt as a metaphor or as an analogy for the United States. Okay? Because what are the different fabrics and colors and textures represent? Very good. I'm going to put Gail's comment of it tells a story. And it is different kinds of people that all make up what? Very good. That all make up America. Okay? That is the metaphor. She's not really talking about a quilt. She's saying that all of these different fabrics and colors and textures that are woven together is really a metaphor for all of the different cultures, the different languages, the different races and ethnicities and foods, all of the different kinds of people that make up the United States. Okay? That's what she's really talking about. And then in the next line, we're going to do one more for this paragraph. What did I do? I just wanted to change a color. Here we go. And we're going to read the last line. And I would like to highlight it. Because it's a major thing. Out of many, one, that is the ideal. Out of many, what? Let's reword it. People, keep going. Yeah, but like out of many people just sounds like there are lots of people. What about the people? Cultures, Yes, now what is all that called? Instead of us making a list, what is all that called? Diversity, good. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add diversity here. Very good, Daniel. But yes, what is it, what do we call, kind of like an umbrella that holds, or like a basket, a category that holds all these things. When we talk about culture and race and ethnicity and language and documentation status and sexuality and gender, those are our what? Identities. Very good. Lucas, very good. Genesis, thank you. Out of many different kinds of identities that people have, we are one what? Nation. nation. That's it. That is it. That is it. There you go. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Thomas. Very good. That's what she means by out of many, one. That is the ideal. Okay, so let me bring it over to the Cornell note. I am quoting in the Cornell note. That is the ideal. And then we're going to unpack ideal. Out of many different kinds of identities that people have, we are one nation. Now, the moment that she says that is the ideal, there you go. The moment that she says that, why do I keep pressing the wrong button? Here we go. That is the ideal. We need to unpack that word ideal. Okay? I'm going to comment that. What does ideal mean? What is the root word of ideal? I want to thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Alex. Okay, so it is an ideal. Okay? Ideal means an idea that is what? If anyone knows what an ideal situation is, what is the implication of that situation? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Data. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Martin. Yes, it is perfect. Okay? Ideal means a perfect idea. Okay? It's kind of like when people say, in an ideal world. Now, what is the implication about what is possible in that sentence? In an ideal world, students would all come in on the same reading level. They would have the same access to resources at home. They would have everything that they need to learn. And they would have teachers that are making a livable wage. In an ideal world. What am I implying? That is not perfect. Thank you, Litany. The implication is that it's not perfect. Okay? It's not perfect. And not only is it not perfect, but this isn't the reality. Look at what we just finished saying. Out of many kinds of identities that people have, we are one nation. That is the ideal. We just said that this is a beautiful idea. This sounds great, but it's not the reality of where we are, of where we currently are. So the implication is that this isn't it yet. We're not there yet. Okay? And so what the author's talking about is that this is a beautiful idea that out of many different kinds of identities, many different kinds of people, that we are all one cohesive, united nation in an ideal world. And so she's implying between the lines that that's not it. How did this paragraph begin? What 5 words did this paragraph begin with? Very good. I might have counted wrong. I have no idea if it's 5 words. But yes, she is ending the paragraph the way that she began it. So this is a cycle. It's coming full circle. With the improbability of America. So she has taken her paragraph and she's brought it full circle. The idea that these notions, beautiful notions of America, are not where we are. And I would also like to say, not where we are yet. I wholly believe that it is possible. It's just not where we are yet. Okay. Now, I want to just stop for a second. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Actually, I can't stop sharing the screen because I don't want all your names to pop up. But I would like to ask a couple of people, and I'm going to call you randomly. Okay? I would like to ask a couple of people to summarize the paragraph to me. Okay? I don't want to move on to paragraph 2 if I don't feel comfortable that we're good on paragraph 1. So if everyone can please take a minute to please reread paragraph 1. I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock. I'm literally going to put a minute on the clock. Please reread paragraph 1. Please reread the paragraph. What is the paragraph talking about? Okay. I want a couple of people to please go ahead and tell me what they believe. You know, I really don't want to call out names, but I keep hearing from the same people. And, you know, I don't want to keep uplifting the same people. I want to make sure that I'm hearing from different people. And I want to thank everyone who's participating verbally and in the chat. But, like, I haven't heard a peep out of Anna. I haven't heard a peep out of Aaron. I haven't heard a peep out of John Carlos. I haven't heard a peep out of Bianca. So it's like, I want to hear from more people. What is the summary of this paragraph? If you could say what this paragraph is about in a few sentences, what would you say that she's saying? All right, Giancarlo, let's go. Take it away. Very good. That's right. You know, you hit the nail on the head. Really good job. Maximus. So, what are we doing, Maximus? Excuse me? You want to try again? Okay. That's not a problem. Awesome. All right, Maximus, you can go ahead. And if you don't know where we are, it seems like there's a lot going on in the background. So it sounds like you got to go. Yeah. Maximus, do you know what's happening in class? Do you know what's happening in class? Oh my God. Maximus, I'm asking you, do you know what's happening in class? Yeah, that's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is, do you know what's happening in class? So then when I call on you, you need to answer the question. What is the summary of this paragraph? I gave you a minute to read the paragraph. Maximus, do me a favor. Mute yourself and type in the chat. Girl, thank you, Dadiana, because this is All right, so one more person. I can have one more person go ahead and tell me what they believe that this paragraph was all about. One more person. One more person. Giancarlo's already went. Again, I don't want to keep... And then what about that diversity? Okay, someone else, jump in. It's talking about the diversity of America. Keep going. What else? Good. Good. Very good. Very good. Who was contributing there? Mariana, I thought so. All right, thank you. Yes, that is not perfect. That there's a lot that we need to work on. There's a lot of diversity in America, but it isn't the perfect union that we make it out to be. So now let's go ahead and let's go to the next paragraph. And she says it like right away. She says the reality is often quite different. A great national striving consisting frequently of failure. And so I want to highlight this phrase right here. Well, not highlight it, but I want to change the color to this phrase right here. A great national striving. What does that mean? To strive, what does that mean? Very good. Thank you, Thomas. Yes, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Danisi. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Kaylin. Yes. Well, you're trying. It doesn't mean to prosper. It means to work towards. You're trying, right? So, who is trying? In this phrase, who is trying? Very good. Thank you. So it's like we as a country are trying. We are working towards something. What is that something? The reality, yes, very good. Very good, that we can all get along. That we are all working towards unity. That is what we're trying for. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that comment. I'm going to put it right there. And then she says, the reality is often quite different. A great national striving consisting frequently of failure. And so it's like, even though we are trying, does it work out? No. No, not always. And not just not always, Mariana. Look at this word right here. What, exactly. Exactly. Very good. That it happens often. That the failure is often. And so you're like, really? Is the failure often? And she says, the reality of this ideal, the reality of this utopia is often quite different. A great national striving. We are trying. We're working towards unity. But the history is consisting frequently of failing. And so you're like, well, damn. And then she goes into the next line. And she says, many of the oft-told stories. Before I continue, what is oft-told? Like, what does that mean? There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Let me change the color a little bit. Add a comment. Often told. So a lot of the stories that we tell in the U.S., and where do we tell these stories? Like, how do we think that who are we telling these stories to? Okay? And what about in your education? Think about, let me give you an example. Think about Thanksgiving. What is the story of Thanksgiving? Okay, sure. But that's what it is now. But what is the story that we hear about the first Thanksgiving? Good. Alexander? Okay, yes, because of the harvest. Dariana, what else? like, I don't know, it's like about food. But I mean, like, these are the stories that we tell, right? The stories that we tell are like about unity, the American Revolution being about, you know, wanting to overthrow a tyrant. And we don't mention in those stories, we don't mention how there were black people who were fighting in the American Revolution. We don't mention that. We don't mention Haitian soldiers that were coming to the U.S. to help the United States fight against their oppressor, because they too wanted freedom. Because the Haitian community also wanted freedom. We don't tell that story. So it's like many of, you know, and then we tell the story of like, of the Civil War, and then it's like, and slavery was over. And it's like, okay, we tell the story of the Civil Rights Movement. And it's like, you know, day one, Rosa Parks sat her seat on the bus. You know, she took her seat on the bus. Day 2, Dr. King marched on Washington. And day 3, everything was better and we all got along. It's a 3-day carnival. Is that not the story? So, what she's saying here is that many of the often told stories of the most pluralistic nation on earth are stories not of tolerance, but of bigotry. And so, Martin, you like my carnival? Yeah. So, she's saying that these stories, who are we telling these stories to? We're telling these stories through education. Education and just like folklore to the generations. But how accurate are they? Okay? How accurate are these stories? Whose voices are left out of these stories? Dadiana, they whitewash history like Thanksgiving to make the colonizers seem so good, so well-meaning. Yes. So I want to take these 2 comments and I want to go ahead and I want to put oft-told stories into my Cornell notes. Oft-told stories. What are the oft-told stories? You know, often, often, we tell story. You know, we whitewash. I'm going to use Dadiana's language. We whitewash and simplify history to make the victors, you know, to the victor goes the spoils, is how the phrase goes. To the victor goes the spoils. Often we whitewash and simplify history to make the victors, the conquerors, seem superior. Yes, seem righteous. Very good. That they're right, that they were noble. You know, you're right. You are totally right, Martin, in like correcting my language. Not just to seem superior, but that their efforts were righteous, that they had good intentions. You know, and that is the story that we pass on through the generations. And you know, I'm gonna put some examples. The first Thanksgiving, the American Revolution. Yes, oh my Lord. How does that little song go? In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Something like that. And it's like, yeah. Thank you, John. Can you expand? That's perfect. Can you expand on some of the dark implications? good. No, and it wasn't. Thank you, John. That was much more in depth than what I was gonna do. And one of the realities of Columbus's exploration and Columbus's like Columbus being lost. This is perfect. Is also that unfortunately he and his men raped and killed so many people. It wasn't just yes. Exactly. It wasn't just the disease that they brought with them, because Columbus's men arrived with syphilis. And a lot of and a lot of people don't say that, but part of the way that people were killed in the what is called the Taino people that no longer exist throughout the Caribbean. The Taino people, I'm sorry, Haniela? Yes, yes. And it goes back to like how many generations ago, and so many, over 3 million Taino people. Here we go. Taino. So many Taino people, approximately 3 million Taino people were killed as a result of war, of rape, of genocide, and it's like, and also of syphilis, of disease. That's an STD. So it's like, what happens when this conquering of America occurred? And I put, civil rights ended discrimination. That's some of the stories that we tell. That Obama, Obama as president ended racism. Like the fact that we had a first black president, it like proved that racism was over. These are the stories that we tell. People like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that she ended gender inequality forever. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, we want to give our children people to look up to, but we also want to be realistic so that they can learn to fight for a more just society. But these are the oft-told stories. These are the okay, hold on. Let me just say something about RBG. Hold on, because before like the chat goes off like honoring her. And I just want to say that I am a fan and I respect Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her legacy because of the 4 Supreme Court cases that she took to the Supreme Court as a lawyer and that she fought for. But also, this is where but also, we have to be critical of who RBG is. The fact of the matter is that RBG wrote opinions and she ruled against Native American people. Like, there were 2 Supreme Court cases that went all the way to obviously to the court. And she ruled against indigenous communities, and she wrote the dissenting opinion as to how these people did not have the same rights as all Americans. She was very anti-indigenous. I just gotta say. She was also someone that, now the NFL is like, we apologize to Colin Kaepernick for kneeling, for us ousting him during the kneeling of the flag and all that. But it's like, she was also one of the judges that said that what Colin Kaepernick was doing 3 years ago was wrong. And here we are 3 years later, and the NFL is saying, actually, we apologize for not listening to what was being said. RBG was great for many things in terms of gender equality, but she too had her flaws. Let's be careful that we don't idolize someone and that we don't allow ourselves to open our eyes and be critical of their flaws and the mistakes that they made. Because this is how we turn people into gods. Like Martin Luther King was a great man, did so much. He was also homophobic. So it's like Jefferson was a rapist. I'm sorry, someone else? So I just wanted to, before the chat went off with like rip RBG, like, yes, I get it. But also I want to teach you guys to always look at things from multiple angles, to not idolize anyone or anything, is what I'm saying. That's beautiful. Very good. I want to recommend a book to some of you. It's called Lies My Teacher Told Me. I highly recommend that book. It focuses on American history. I lend that book out to kids. Like they speed read through it. If we were in class physically, like I would have it out to show it to you. But a few other books that I recommend to people is an African American and Latinx history of the United States. I love A People's History. Oh shoot. A People's History of the United States. This is why I'm a teacher. A Young People's History of the United States. Like, I believe that you teach kids the way that things are, and you show them different strategies to think critically, because in our country, and I just want to be really like upfront about that, in our country, movements have always been led by the young. Movements. When Dr. King, one of the turning points of the civil rights movement, that the nation, it forced the nation to take the civil rights movement seriously. One of the moments of that was when Dr. King asked young children to march and to hold up signs about their humanity. Young children. And it forced the nation, when this was televised, it forced the nation to look not at a black man that was being impacted, but at black children, and question the kind of world that they were gonna wake up in, that they were gonna grow up in. The gun violence and the March on Washington that happened a few years ago. Yes, to all that in the chat. Yes. The March on Washington that happened a few years ago. Parkland has a lot of cons, but it has a lot of pros. Parkland and the movement to curb gun violence in schools and to protect schools were led by young people. In California, in Los Angeles specifically, in the 1960s, Hispanic kids, Latino kids, walked out of school. And it was a Supreme Court case, Rodriguez versus the United States. It went all the way to the Supreme Court because Hispanic kids in California walked out of school and refused to go back until they were getting a quality education. And that was after Brown v. Board of Education. When it said that, what was it? It said that Brown v. Board of Education of 1954 said that schools had to desegregate. And here you are 20 years later, 15 to 20 years later, and it's like Hispanic kids were not getting quality education because they're not white, but they're not black. I'm trying to think of something else. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name. Oh, the Tinker versus Des Moines. You all should have learned about this in the last 2 years in your civics or history class. The Tinker versus Des Moines Supreme Court case where the teenagers were wearing a yellow armband and they went to school with a yellow armband on in protest of the Vietnam War, because in a few years their asses were going to be drafted to go fight in Vietnam. There were people your age, 14, 15, 16 years old, were wearing yellow armbands around their arm as a show of protest against the Vietnam War, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that your First Amendment rights do not end at the schoolhouse door. I could go on. The movements of this country, the revolutions of this country, have always been led by the young, have always been led by young people. There's nothing that can convince me otherwise. Because you all are going to grow up to change our country, and to change our electorate, and to change the way that we do things. You know? So these stories that we have of people being idolized and being uplifted at like saviors is nonsense. No one person can save this country. And but I think that there is more power in young people, because you all are not children, but you're not adults. You have not been crushed, and I say crushed on purpose. You have not been crushed by the work-life balance. You don't have children that you need to feed. You don't have a mortgage that you need to pay. You may be helping your parents keep a roof over your head. You may be helping to raise your siblings or cousins, but you can still dream. You can still dream, and you can still imagine a future that is possible. It is harder to do that when you've been tainted or when you've been corrupted by a system. Young people and their imaginations, and young people and their movements are what have changed the laws in this country. Young people have led the movements that have changed the face of our society. But many of the often told stories that we tell are of heroes, and we whitewash them, and we don't tell our history accurately because it gives you power and because it gives you knowledge. Why am I going to do that? Yes, we absolutely are lucky to have social media, but grassroots organizing existed before social media. Everything that I just said to you was before social media, except for the gun violence one. Except for that one, because that was in the last 3 years. Okay? We're going to go ahead and we're going to finish this sentence next class. We left off here. Many of the oft-told stories of the most pluralistic nation on earth are not stories of tolerance, but of bigotry. Okay? The only thing that I want to end with is tolerance the goal? What does tolerance mean? Not patience. Are you okay? There you go. Are you okay with the litany? And who said putting up with? Haniela, thank you. If you tolerate someone, have you accepted them or have you put up with them? Exactly. And so many of the stories of the most pluralistic nation on earth are not of tolerance. Can't even put up with it. Not of tolerance, but of bigotry. So we're going to unpack next class, because the first 2 paragraphs are really heavy. Next class is actually when we're going to fly through this. Okay? But how's everyone feeling in terms of understanding the text? Can I get a quick little thumbs up? Yeah, you guys are good? Okay, awesome. Okay. All right, so I will see you all at 2 o'clock on Friday. Thank you for a great class, and let me know if you need anything, okay? All right, bye.